It's tough. It's tough to be in a situation. I know you're sitting there thinking there's no option, there's no way around it. But you just have to keep working. You gotta keep grinding. See the positives in every single situation you can find. Find the positives and relay it back to them. Let them know that they're loved. Doesn't mean you can't yell at them. You can't be mean to them. You can still do all those things, but show it from a place that they know it's coming from tough love. And things with my kids and my students, some could, not feel this way, but I feel like the majority of them and people that have watched me coach or been to our games can kind of testimony to us or for me, is that they know it comes from a good place. They know it's passion of love. It's passion that I want them to succeed and I want them to get better. It's a tough sport. Baseball is a game of failure. And when you're talking about kids that have never played before, they're missing prime time experience situational baseball. You're learning velocities over time. People don't understand that. You learn 50 to 60 at a certain age. You learn 60 to 70 at a certain age. 70 to 80. 80 to 90. You learn that stuff over time. You adapt to it and you evolve to it. You can't jump into 80 plus on a kid that's never done it before, never in their entire life, and expect them to succeed. There's just no way around it because it's a game of failure. You're already at a loss to begin with because 3 out of 10 times you're considered really, really good. Now you're telling a kid, well, if you're not that, then you're not very good at all. You don't need to play no more. That's not it. Keep fighting, keep pushing towards them. It's going to be all right. They will learn from it. You'll learn from it. You might get beat 20-1, 20-2. Okay? Good for that team. They should beat you 20-2. It's not like football or basketball or some sport where you can just physically overwhelm somebody or you can just physically line up and just, doesn't matter what talent is, I'm going to beat you up. Baseball is the complete opposite of that. It's a game of skill that is learned and evolved over time. And you adapt to those situations and you learn from those situations. A kid that's never played before stands no chance. No chance. That's what's part of the rebuild. It's what's part of the process is getting these kids game time situations. So you can poke fun and make fun of kid that they're losing 20-2. Okay, that does that kid no good. Does the game of baseball no good? I don't understand why. I'm grateful and humble about it, but smaller schools or just schools that are in a rebuild mode come and ask me questions and ask me how are we doing it. And at the end of the day, we had a great year last year. For our standards, we had a great year last year. Best year it's ever been since like 2001, which is a long time, over 20 years. Established 3 teams, played a lot of games, played a lot of 7-inning games, won some district games, which is the big reason why it was such a success. And they weren't against, small schools. Their wins against very formidable 5A premier teams. But like this year, we're 1-28, we're 1-26, something like that. A lot of losses. The wins and losses are definitely not there. And still, people come up to me or call me or reach out on Facebook, wherever it is, and ask me, how are we doing it? And it's frustrating because you want to say, well, I sure as heck don't have the answer. But the positives are there. You can't look at the wins and losses. When you're in a rebuild stage and you know you're up at an uphill battle, you're up against formidable foes, and that's not a knock at smaller schools. It's just obviously bigger schools sometimes in baseball. I mean, it's tough. It is tough. Find the positives and know what you're about. See the plan and focus. Don't just get mad because you lose, which, trust me, I'm super competitive. You see me coach, I get mad. But see the plan. How's this situation going to help us 3 weeks from now? How's this situation going to help us next year? How's this situation going to help us 2 years from now? Find guys that on your team that you can plug in that's going to help you in the future. okay? And not say disregard the season. Don't let your upperclassmen play. I'm not saying that. I'm saying find guys that you can plug in certain situations at certain times that you know this would benefit you, your program, and just the overall team success. And don't have your expectations to be highly as a normal. The best way to get better fast and to amplify the rebuild process, if you know it's going to take a long time, is you got to get it back down to the very, very fundamental, basic side of baseball. And I mean, take that all the way back to T-ball. There's nothing wrong with it. These kids skip those stages in their baseball career and their baseball experiences, which I talked about earlier, about you got to learn velocities over time. So you got to take that way back. Now, you got to amplify the process and speed it up to sessions, which we did last year. And yeah, we don't have a great year this year, wins and losses, but if you watch us play, you can see the glimpse of it. You can see the glimpses of people are hitting cutoffs a little bit better. People are stealing bases a little bit better. People are backing up throw, stuff that you just learn over time that you just, as a normal high school coach, you just don't necessarily have to teach those things. You kind of maybe go over it, but you don't have to necessarily teach those things because they've already learned that and they already know what to do. You have to take it back to the very basic fundamentals of T-ball. Seriously, T-ball. Get a tee, put it on home plate, get a defense out there, set them up. Personally, go out there and set them up. Because we had our last year when we had so many kids come out, but 90% of them, if you told them to go left field, they're not going to left field. They're going to right field. They're going to second base. If you say second base, the kid might go stand on second base. That's not to hurt anybody's feelings. That's just that kid doesn't know better. Your player doesn't know better because they were never learned. They're never taught. Doesn't mean they can't be good or become good, because we have a pitcher right now that potentially could be all-district pitcher for us. Second year ever playing baseball, and he's basically he's dominating at a 5A level of a very good district, and it's the second year playing baseball ever in his life. Didn't have a glove, didn't have cleats, couldn't grip a baseball, didn't know what a balk was, didn't know what come set was, none of that, and didn't know it. But we brought it to the very basics. He's super athletic, and he's willing to learn and willing to be coached. That's another thing. Find kids that are coachable. They have to be coachable because they have to know, and you have to be real with them, who you're going up against, who you're playing against, how can we be successful, how can we not embarrass ourselves out here. You got to be willing to be coachable because you got to go back to the very basics, and it might seem silly to them, and it might hurt their feelings, and it might make them feel embarrassed and shy, which, trust me, it does. You got to find the balance to where it doesn't make them embarrassed. Make it fun. Have some games. There's no wrong with having games during your practices with rebuilding There's nothing wrong with it. Now, the games have to be modified, and the games have to be watched, and, strategize how can we make this benefit a practice setting, but you got to somehow get game situations in there, and you got to somehow speed it up so they're getting some kind of real life action between it. Now, we have certain practices where it's like drill, situation, all that kind of stuff, and then we have practices where game like inter squad, but it's very modified to where it's not like a normal inter squad, but it's T-ball-esque kind of coach pitch. Break it down for them. They're not going to learn all that stuff when you just throw them out there to the lions. Then you can't do that. Now, if you can teach them how to fight a lion, then you can throw them in the lions den and maybe they have a chance. That's the best philosophy I was told from a coach is don't throw them in the lions den without teaching them the way a lion moves, the way a lion sleeps, eats, all that kind of stuff. Teach them. You can't just throw them out to a baseball field against White House, for example, in one of our districts, and expect them to compete. If you go top to bottom, from number one player to the bottom, which is 40, whatever it is, they're better than us at every angle, every player. Does it mean you can't at least make it a game?